Hi folks, welcome back to another update of Allotment Days, and the weather's improved, all the snow's gone now, and like everyone else I'm really looking forward to the start of spring. I've had a sweep round, cleared all the allotments up, but before I started properly I thought I'd introduce you to the new kid on the block, the new member of our wheelbarrow fleet. It's the punctureless tyre, all green and shiny wheelbarrow, and it joins our flat tired wheelbarrow and our wobbly wheelbarrow. So we're hoping to achieve some great things together. So I'll catch you later. Cheers! Welcome back. Hope you're all keeping okay and that you survived the worst of the weather. We had about 6 inch, I would say, of snow up here in West Yorkshire, and it was ever so windy, really violently windy. Temperatures of about -7, hail, really heavy snow. I came down one day against my better judgment just to have a look at the allotment because I'd never seen it under snow before, and I'll pop a clip of that section of video up here in the corner so that you can see just how bad it was. The sound quality was absolutely appalling, so I chose to reduce the sound a little bit so that it wouldn't spoil your enjoyment, if you want to call it that. Prior to the poor weather coming, we did quite a lot of work on the site, and we've wheelbarrowed probably about 200 wheelbarrowfuls of manure. So all the paths are tidy now because I've had a sweep around, but we've still got heaps of manure spread all over the place, and they need to be spread out. We've a little bit more to do, but we're just about ready for spring when it arrives, and hopefully that'll be in about a week or 10 days time. I'm in the middle greenhouse now, and you can't see them, but I'm looking at the seedlings, the salad seedlings. We sowed the salad seed, it must be about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, and since then it's been bitterly cold, and I thought I'd lose them all. We had mixed salad, beetroot, radish, but surprisingly, with a little bit of bubble wrap, everything seems to have weathered the storm. So I'll turn you around now and we'll take a look at the seedlings. Okay, catch you in a minute. Well, I have to say that the salad leaf is doing surprisingly well. You can see that the mixed salad leaf that had grown quite a bit, it started up again at the end of January, early February, and then slowed down. You can see that that's suffered a little bit. Close to the greenhouse glass we've got a little bit of rot, and it's going a little bit anemic as well. Over here, where it's not been quite so cold, it seems to have fared okay. But the salad leaf seed that I sowed is doing remarkably well. This one here I did first, and as you can see, that looks really healthy. It's a mixed red and green. It's the same as the one that I showed you at the start, and then I've got a couple more that were started probably 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, and I think one of them, it might be this one, is like a mixed oriental leaf. So we've stolen a little bit of a march on spring, and with a bit of luck, if the weather stays mild now, we should see these really start and grow. The radish, they look quite robust and healthy. The beetroot, still not really moved on, but you can see they've all germinated, the seedlings. So there might be a few salad leaf seedlings in there as well, in amongst them. But yeah, no reason to complain. Hi again. I thought I'd show you a few things that have started to grow on the plot, and the first thing I wanted to show you was the elephant garlic. Now, I bought 30 bulbs in a box, I think it was in October 2016, from the Isle of Wight, and I planted them round about the end of October,
and I harvested the bulbs in the summer of last year, 2017. They did really well, and you can see that some of the bulbs were, they were this size, and you can see them in one of my updates, I think, as I harvested them. There were about 40 left, and they've been put back into this raised bed. It's a no-dig bed, and I put them in again at the end of October, and as you can see, 40 plants, 4 rows of 10, and they've all fired. One or two are a little bit smaller than the others, but on the whole they're really thick. They've got about 5 leaves per plant, and fingers crossed we'll get a good harvest again. It'll be interesting to see, because the bulbs that I put back in the ground were probably the worst of what I harvested. I ate all the best ones, and maybe this year I'll do it the other way around just to see whether it makes a difference. But I did wonder whether, we would get a measly crop, but so far they look to be performing really well. So I'm going to take you now and we'll look at a few other things, and we'll see how the rhubarb's getting on. Okay, catch you in a minute.
Well, the rhubarb needs little in the way of commentary really. You can see that it's doing really well. To say we've just had some really extreme weather. 6 plants here. These are the larger plants. Yielded really heavily last year, and despite the frost and the cold and the ice, nothing seems to have been burned. All the tops look intact, so I'm really pleased about that. So other things being equal, it should be another great year for rhubarb. There's a lot of talk of disaster at the moment amongst YouTubers and their plots, and this is mine. These are the broad beans. We put them in probably too early, round about the middle of October, and in future I'd probably leave it until early to mid-November, because they got a little bit too tall before the onset of winter. They were about 15-inch high, as you can see looking at these here in front of me, and the snow that we had about 6-inch. It's sort of settled on the top of the plants, snapped off the tops, and then the frost has proceeded to burn the stems, as you can see, leaf and stem here on the rows at the back. They've probably got the brunt of it, because the wind tends to come from that direction, and they've probably protected the row over here. So it's the first time we've tried to overwinter broad beans, and you live and you learn, don't you? That's the whole point of gardening. You've got to take it in your stride, and nothing ventured, nothing gained. So who knows, we might still get a few from these here, but we left a patch at the back there so that we can plant some in May. So all's not lost, but it's still a little bit disappointing. But there you go, that's life. Hi again, time to do a little bit more sowing, and I'm in the middle greenhouse, and I've decided to sow some bush tomatoes. Now normally I don't sow my tomatoes until about the 3rd week in March to coincide with spring, and that normally means that 6 or 8 weeks later, when they're being put into the final positions in the final pots, pretty much all risk of frost has passed. So you're talking early to mid-May, because it'll be about 6 to 8 weeks from sowing to putting them into the final pots. Now most of the greenhouse tomatoes I grow are cherries and beefsteaks, and they'll be sown next weekend. But today I've got 2 bush varieties. One's called Litzano and one's called Red Alert. Now I've done the Litzano already. This is a bush that grows to about 2 feet high and 2 feet in diameter. Hundreds of tiny little tomatoes, really sweet, and it does have some blight resistance. The next variety that I'm going to sow is Red Alert. Now this has been grown commercially in the past, and they grow it commercially because it's a big plant, about 3 feet high and 3 feet wide. It's completely covered in tomatoes, and they're really quite sweet, a little bit heart-shaped, but they all tend to ripen at the same time. So particularly good if you're going to harvest mechanically, and that's what they do apparently. But they're really high yielding, and they're very sweet as well, and I quite like the taste. This particular seed is from Mole Seeds again, and I paid for the seeds, I bought them, they've not sent them to me to review or anything like that, they're all mine. And in my experience they're a good seed. They're well packaged as well, Mole Seeds, in like a cool foil pack that's sort of vacuum sealed. But the thing to note about this seed is that it cost a couple of pound, but there are 100 seeds. The other variety I got from Nicky's Nurseries, and there were 8 seeds in there, and they were about the same price. So this is how I do my tomatoes. It's not rocket science. I take a 3-inch pot, it's barely that, yeah, just about 3 inch, not overly deep, doesn't need to be. Fill it with a general purpose compost, and the compost has been sieved. Just tamp it down like so, and then what I generally do is just give it quite a nice soak in the water, and what that tends to do is it soaks through to the bottom, so all your compost is moist, but it also, as you can see, it drags the compost down, the level of the compost down to about 3/8 of an inch from the top. And then we're ready to pop the seeds in. And as I say, there are 100 here, but we only need about 4. I'm going to sow 4, but I'm only going to use 2. And the seed is a little bit larger than the seed with the Litsano. This is Red Alert, this one, and reflecting the fact that the cherry tomato that it grows is actually a little bit bigger. You do tend to find that with the tomato seed, that the smaller the tomato, the smaller the seed. Beefsteak can be quite chunky. So having done that, then I just take a little bit of compost, sprinkle it over the top, about 1/8 of an inch, no more than that. Try and avoid any lumpy bits, because you don't want to inhibit the seed leaves as they try and break through. And then if you've got it, I would just spray it with like a little bottle with a spray nozzle on top, but I've not got one of those at the minute to hand, so gently I'm just going to go over the top with a little bit of water. You don't want to disturb the compost, and that's it. What you need to do now is, if you've got one, pop it in a seed propagator, probably for about 2 or 3 days, and they generally come up that quickly if the seed's good. Otherwise you could just put a plastic bag over the top and put them in the airing cupboard or something like that, somewhere dark, or if they're outside, just cover them with, when I say outside, elsewhere in the house, just cover them with a tea towel or something like that, just to keep it dark. Check them after about the 2nd day, and as soon as you see the seed leaves popping through, take them out. You can put them on the windowsill, and then you're probably going to leave them there for another week or so, until your seedlings reach this sort of height, maybe about 4 or 5 centimetres. And that's the time then to prick out the tomatoes and put them into their first pots. And I put them in 1 litre pots, 5-inch pots, so they're that sort of width and about that high. And then they're staying there probably until early mid-May. So I think that's about it. They're the first tomatoes for 2018, and when you sow your tomatoes you know that spring's not very far away, so roll on spring, that's what I say. And next week we'll do some of the cherry and beefsteak tomatoes. Okay, catch you later. Hi folks, welcome back. I'm going to draw a close to this update now, but before I do that I just wanted to show you the potatoes and onions that I've got in storage. We had a good year for potatoes and onions last year on the plot, and I've just brought them into the house to show you. Now they're normally kept in a dark integral garage. It's quite cool in there as well. It's never really more than about 12 degrees or something like that, and probably around about 5 or 6 in the winter. I'm at home in the dining part of our kitchen, and I've got the potatoes down here, and these are the onions. These are my share of the harvest, and if you remember last year it was really good for onions. We had them in the barn drying for a week or so. On the right here we've got the Zebraun shallot or banana shallot, and if I just reach down and show you, they're all really nice and firm, and there's probably about 20 or 25 in there. We've got the heat treated Red Baron just here, and they're solid as a rock as well. And then we've got the Caravel Pink. This was a smaller onion, but it's kept really well, and it's really nice and sweet. Has a pink coloration to the skin before you harvest it. Obviously when you peel the skin off it's white like a normal onion. But I would say there are most of those left, and there's probably altogether there about 40, maybe 30 pounds of onions. So more than enough to last us, I would say, until probably July when we take up the onions this year. If we just flip around to the potatoes, we've got 3 different varieties here. We've got King Edward on the left, Pentland Javelin in the middle, and Picasso on the right. And if I show you I've had a little look through, there weren't any rotten ones. There's a Picasso, you can see a few eyes are starting to form, but it's still rock hard. They're a really nice baking potato. These were lifted, I think, at the end of August last year. So that's, what, about 7 months ago? And they're in excellent condition. Not soft or anything. The Pentland Javelin, same story again. These were the second sowing, the second wave. It's of new potatoes, it's a first early. But you can leave it in the ground like some other varieties just to grow on, and then it becomes like a main crop. But as you can see, listen to it, lovely and solid. And then we've got the King Edward, and they've not been washed, so they're a little bit dirty, but that's okay as well. There's a little bit of give in that one, but not a great deal. Let's see if I can find another one. Again, dirty, but perfectly alright. And there's a lot of those. I would say there's about easily £30 there, and probably £10 in each of these. So we've about £50 of potatoes left, and quite comfortably £30 of onions, maybe a little bit more, maybe £40. So it just shows you that it really is worth growing your own, and things really do keep if you look after them. And all I've had to do with the onions is just, every once in a while, just go back in, have a look, make sure there are no soft ones. There might be an odd one now and then. And as they get older, they do tend to shrink a little bit, and the outer leaves will dry. So you just take the outer leaves off, and they're good to go. So it's quite a nice feeling you get when you see that you've got your stuff preserved or stored, and it's still in good condition in the middle of March. So I'm really happy. Right, well that's it for this update. Thank you very much for watching and for subscribing, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay, take care.